across the country, we want you to get ready for the State of Black America right here at the WUFO 1080 Expo 2012. It's none other than Western New York Gospel.
Magic. Folks that are here, if you have a chance, come forward, come sit down. We're going to start. Thank you for having me here today. Sheila and the folks over at WUFO, the Mix 1080. It's great to be in Buffalo. I've been coming on the air in Buffalo for over 5 years. I started with my 3-minute commentary show, the Local Jones Report, tagline commentary for the common folk. And now I've been blessed the last year to start my 30-minute show. Both are now nationally syndicated, the Political Jones Show. And it's been a blessing to be on in Buffalo. It's been a blessing to meet and speak to the folks here and have a chance to interact. I always tell people I love to come to Buffalo, but I won't come when it's snowing. And they say it doesn't snow that much here, so I'm learning that as I go along. So one of the things I want to talk to you was talk about the state of Black America, Buffalo style. Politics are all over. When you're dealing with issues of politics, they cross the board. It doesn't matter if you live in Buffalo, Cleveland, New York, wherever it may be. It's local. And I've been saying to folks, a lot of times when you hear all this, the noise and the chatter about, in the black community about President Obama and like, people kind of upset because, as I would say, Michelle, Barack, and the kids are not coming by their cribs to play spades and kick. That ain't happening. But at the other end, your city councilman, who you may know or went to church with or played ball with or grew up with, will come by your house. And in fact, if you have 30 to 35 people show up at a city council meeting, I'm going to tell you right now, any city councilman and the mayor is going to be very interested in whatever your issue is. So it's important to be involved and be a part of the process. So the one thing I want to tell you folks as we end and we start to go, because hearing me talk, you got some heavyweights up here. I don't mean weight-wise, but mentally. The thing I want to talk to you about, and just make you remember, is something I've said and I'll keep saying. It's always people, not politics. Always people, not politics. So with that, we're going to start the day with my introductions. Now I'm going to tell you who the panelist is. Each one is going to have 2 minutes. I'm going to speak their names and they're going to introduce themselves and give you their 2 minutes and we're going to start. We have with us Jim Anderson. Raise your hand as I present this to you. Ted Kirkland. Dr. Willie Underwood. Sam Redford. And Mr. Charley Fisher III. So when the brother's third, you got to give him his dapper. I'm a junior, so I know that. And remember, I'm not Leroy, I'm Leroy. I'm from Underwood. I'm from Lone, North Carolina, so I keep it real in that sense. So we're going to start, we'll go, I guess we'll make sure, we'll go left to right. Go ahead, my good man.
Right. Okay, here we go. My name is Jim Anderson. I'm the host of Conversations with Jim Anderson every Tuesday from 12 to 1. And like I always say, like one brother used to say, if conversation isn't on your radio, then your radio isn't really on. And I just want to tell you, you know, it's conversations about things we need to be talking about. In the barbershop, in the beauty shop, at home, on the corner, in the park, at work, wherever you at, we need to be having conversation about the quality of life and the role that each of us plays in it. And you better be playing a role. Thank you.
Amen.
I'm Ted Kirkland. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sort of retired. I was on welfare for 20 years. I was a police officer for 15 years. I was an adjunct professor for 19 years. I'm going to be talking about today, touch on something called crime. I might say some things you don't like, so don't be offended.
It's all right. It's all right.
Okay. And I hope you accept it that way, because as a people, we are in serious, serious trouble. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We'll talk about it later.
Amen. if I can follow that one. Willie Underwood. I'm associate professor of urologic oncology. I do healthcare disparities research. I deal with issues of healthcare policy, and I work at Roswell Park. And everything I say is from me, by me, for us.
All right.
I'm not representing anyone else but Willie Underwood.
All right.
All right. Brother Jones, I'm Samuel Leon Radford III.
Excuse me.
All right. I am the grandson of Mary May Liza Coleman, and I am extremely proud of my ancestors and my elders. And I don't do anything without acknowledging the presence of a true and living God, my ancestors and my elders. And I request permission from my elders to speak. Permission from the elders to speak. With permission from the elders to speak, I'm honored to be the representative of the parents of the Buffalo Public School System. I'm the president of the District Parent Coordinating Council, and I'll be talking to you today about the issues of the day as it relates to education.
Amen.
Greetings in Hotep. My name is Charley Fisher III. I'm the grandfather of Charley Fisher V. And I'm the great-great-grandson of Charley Fisher, who really succeeded these 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I've been a given name of Akida Bakara. And I'm president of the Build organization, which reconvened after 28 years. Friends Incorporated. I represent the Erie County Legislature as a senior clerk for Betty Jean Grant. I have a TV show. We're going to be talking about voter rights, voter suppression, and voter issues 1937 to the present in Buffalo, New York.
Absolutely, that's great. There's no need to waste the time. Let's start with education. Clearly that education is a local issue, but it's also a national issue. Let's kick it out. What's your feelings right now about the educational system? Not only here in Buffalo. Let's talk about Buffalo first, because it's local. Because it affects across the country, because we're talking about communities, how they're affected. Education, and also after that we're going to go into crime, because education and crime are interrelated. So let's start with you, Mr.
Let me just start with the facts. First and foremost, it's probably the most important thing to understand is that as relates to our youth, the next generation, our fundamental responsibility to ensuring that we leave the community better than we found it. Education is going to be a critical factor in our ability to ensure that our youth have a better future than we have. So in Buffalo, most people will be able to tell you the statistics that we spend $1 billion every single year to educate approximately 35,000 students. Of that 35,000 students that we spend $1 billion on, we graduate less than half every year. Of that less than half that we graduate, 25% of the black males, only 25% of black males graduate from Buffalo Public Schools every year. That's been that way for the past 40 years. And again, we spend $1 billion to get that. Our current education system is not actually an education system, it's actually an employment system. What we do is we guarantee job security for the people that work within the education system. We do not have a requirement to ensure that every child get a quality education. But what it comes down to is that when it's all said and done, that's on us. That's on our community. Education doesn't happen by magic. It requires people to have a vision, a standard, and do the work to ensure that we make the things that are necessary for our children to succeed in life available to them. And so what we've done through the District Parent Coordinating Council here locally is establish some real clear, concrete goals. As I lay out that dismal picture of what the current reality is, here in Buffalo is also one of the best times that ever been as it relates to education. Most people will know that over the last 10 years we spent $1 billion through the Joint School Construction Project to rebuild every school in the city of Buffalo. So we now have state-of-the-art school. There is no school district, no urban school district in the country that's more technologically advanced than the Buffalo Public School District. You go to every single school, you have a whiteboard in the classroom. Go look at the new Seneca High School. Go look at the with this MST now, the new Kensington High School, which is the Olmsted High School now, state-of-the-art science labs. Go look at the Performing Arts High School. I mean, all these schools are state-of-the-art. So we have a physical infrastructure that's been totally overturned. I don't know how much time I got, so I don't want to get into too much detail. What's my time frame on this?
You're fine.
Okay.
Give you two.
Okay, Josh. All right. So we have a clear physical infrastructure in place. We also, Buffalo Public School District is one of the only school districts in the country that for the next 20 years will guarantee every single child, not based on race, not based on socioeconomic status, every single child that graduates from a Buffalo public or charter school for the next 20 years will be able to go to college, any state college, and some private colleges for free. You will not have to pay anything. It is paid for by the State Yes to Education Scholarship, and that is an opportunity that you can't even really put a price on. Because it's not just about the opportunity to decide on your career in second grade and be able to have it paid for all the way through your undergraduate, but it's also an economic opportunity. Because those of us who have sent children to college, those of us who've been to college, you know one of the biggest things that happen educationally is that you come out of college with what? Debt. And so here it is, we have a whole generation of children for the next 20 years who will not have any debt coming out of college, nor will their parents acquire debt and sending them to college. So that's an economic opportunity. So Buffalo has an opportunity that, so as bad as it is, it's also better than it's ever been. We have the opportunity to do something that has never been done, and it's on us to do it. So that's the foundation we're going to be building from.
Well, look, let's tie it together. Mr. Kirkland, you talked about crime. And Mr. Underwood, do you have a question real quick?
Yeah, can I make the connection between education and what the person is going to say?
Well, if you want to be the bridge, brothers. They say bring it to the bridge.
Hi. Although I deal with healthcare, they're all sort of related. Does anyone know how they determine how many prisons we need? They determine by the reading levels at the third grade. Exactly. Right. So that's the bridge. That's the connection. Because we know without an education, if you can't read, you are so limited by what you can do. Your ability to survive is so limited that most likely you will end up in a vice. And in that vice will most likely have you wind up in prison, especially if you're a black male. Because once you get over here, the system is not just, equitable, fair. It has never been just, equitable, and fair. Spitball in the classroom, you look one way, it's boys will be boys. You look another way, it's a criminal act. It's assault. Do you know that boy assaulted that kid? Tried to spitball at him, tried to kill him. Lock him up. He's 5 years old. Lock him up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Willie.
Mr.
Let me start off by saying that we all have an obligation. And if I start off by asking anyone in the audience to tell me how many homicides have we had in Buffalo this year, who can tell me? Nobody.
It's about 38.
About?
Yeah.
That's just a question.
Yeah, I'm saying I think it's 39.
Yeah. Okay, you're just about right. Okay. I asked that question only because we're partly responsible for those homicides, for our young sisters and brothers, for what we have not done as a people. We think it's the police or the courts. It's not, it's us. And let me just give you an example. The kind of frustration that we have in our community creates the kind of crime that we have. The kind of frustration that we have in our community many times come from the fact that a large proportion of our people are not working. And because a large percentage of our people are not working, falls many times on us. Now let me make that a little clearer for you. Jefferson Avenue, for example, shouldn't have nothing on it but black businesses, meaning black employment. There was a time a number of years ago when we would go to a banquet hall, even if we had to go to wherever, the Hyatt, wherever it is, we would be very careful when we would make the arrangements, because we want to know how many people that look like us are working here. Today, we no longer do that. Do we? We don't guarantee our children no employment whatsoever. In undergrad, I did a paper once titled Illegal Employment. Because when you participate in crime, to a great extent, it's over money. It becomes an occupation, and you're doing it for the same thing as the guy who has the legal job. But now, we put people in office that we don't demand anything of. They're running for their job. So we make sure they keep their job, but they don't have to do anything for us. Now, if you were to prioritize the problems in our community, I'm pretty sure that you wouldn't come up and say one of the most important issues in our community happens to be licensing cats. Do you get the drift? We got folks dying every night, but we have councilmen pushing for the licensing of cats. Let's leave out of here today with an agenda for every single one of your elected officials. Every man up here has a specific issue. They should be dealing with those issues. Just because they're eating good, it doesn't mean that everybody in our community is eating good. Now let me just run down a couple of things. In the year 2012, 39. In the year 2011, 34. In the year 2010, 55. Year 2009, 60. 2003, 37. Add that up, it comes out to about 234 homicides in those few years. That means dead folks. That means that there was somebody who did kill it. So we can basically say that at least that many individuals killed somebody else, but it's usually more than that. But let's look at the financial costs that that person who goes to court, who mama usually, because the mama usually nowadays is the single female house female head of house is more dominant than a two-family house, so she's got a bill to pay. Look at the money that we're spending giving lawyers that involve crime. And what are we doing about it? Someone mentioned before about marching on City Hall. I have yet to hear, and I don't care who's down there, it can be purple as far as I'm concerned, don't make no difference. I have yet to see this community force your mayor to do anything.
Well, let me interrupt you. And I want to get Mr. Anderson's conversation. You're a long-time resident. What's your feelings on some of these things? Just because I see you to a certain extent. I want to get your input. What do you have to say? Mr. Kirkland, I want to hear Mr. Anderson. I want to get his input on some of the things. No, I'm giving that microphone. Well, take that microphone from that brother.
I'm always reminded of, because here in the city of Buffalo, we like to talk about, being filled with the Spirit. We got 10,000 churches, right, and everybody, praising the Lord, but they ain't really working for Him. And here's what I'm mindful of. There's a story about 3 brothers in there that was taken captive, had their names changed, had to learn some other behaviors, and when push came to shove, they never forgot what they learned at home. So my point is, education doesn't start at the red brick house door, it starts at the community door. Now we're in a situation where the complexity is, we know we got children raising children, but everybody ain't a child. And some of us know some stuff and how to do some stuff, but they're not doing it, and the question is why? And so, and when we come together, we should be coming together like a team. Because as a team, we're not playing well together. And we should be trying to work out and figure out how do we bring ourselves to our better selves. Most of the people in this room have lived at a time when Buffalo was kind of flourishing. Well, they didn't get there, it just didn't happen. People had to work. So if those people work, we need to be asking ourselves, why aren't we working and working together? We're not immune to the whole spirit that went around at one time during the change up time, where individuals say, I'm doing my thing. Well, my thing has to be our thing. And we know that, but we don't act to that. And so here's what I want to say. The complexity is not that charge if we who here start doing. Because if we're able to see a problem, then as Cornel West would say, that presupposes we know something about what to do. And it ain't about to just put it on somebody else. Yeah, we got to hold them accountable, but how do we hold ourselves accountable? In the household, it's no different. Whether you're dealing, when you have in the household, you ain't letting nobody just lay around. You ought not be letting nobody lay around. Well, we should be the same way with our neighbors. We should be the same way with those who claim they are elected on our behalf. We're out of practice. And we got to start doing that. So I would just say that on this particular part, if you, in this moment, are looking for entertainment, you know, in this sector, because, you know, we kind of in there, we want to go see what they're going to say and how they're going to say. I want you to look for entertainment.
Come on.
Because it's about us pulling out the negative, the lackadaisical in ourselves and stepping into the ring together and say we're going to push. Now, some things may come from the table where we can all do something on. The question is, will you show up and will you sign up to do it? But if you're not ready to fess up, then this is more like entertainment. If you're ready for action, it's going to be entertainment, because some of us, sometimes sit back and think somebody else's job. It's our job. Those who see, those who know. Those who don't know, they're not going to do anything, but if we were doing, perhaps they will learn. I don't stop there because it's going to get hot in here.
Well, I want Mr. Fisher's input on this too. What's your feelings? I mean, because I think it's important for you guys. You guys are elders, you're here in the community, you have the history, you have a love for this place. This is your home.
Thank you, Brother. Well, I want to just say, first of all, just acknowledge Sister Eva Doyle, our Queen Mother, and also Derek Bird, and also my wife Denise, who is here, and Brother Bones from the Global Ministry. Since 1965, Buffalo, New York has had the benefit of a Voting Rights Act, and arguably is one of the city's most racist, has some of the most challenges, last place in black business, high crime, like you were speaking, Ted, my brother, educational statistics, like you outlined. But we've never availed ourselves of the law, the federal laws that people died for. And if any city needed the Voting Rights Act, Section 2 and Section 5 of 1965, it's Buffalo. So let's consider this, everyone. I want to say this to you. You as a community did your part. Our problem has been our leadership, Ted. We sent 58 black folk to office. Since 1937 with Sherman Walker, in 1948 with our brother from the council, Minister Leland Jones, we sent 58 people. We elected the senior member of the Assembly, sent him back 16 times, in IIII, the senior member of the legislature in Roger Blackwell, the senior member of the Common Council in George K. Arthur, and the senior member of the school board in Florence Ball. And then we did it over and over again. We put back chairman of the legislature. And what I'd like to say is that we've entrusted so much to our political process. What do I mean by that? We take in $100 million a year from the federal, state, county, city, like $45 million to the CAO. And monies that we get from the state DHR and the various state entities. We produce money out of the Community Development Block Grant for 30 years. We've had millions, and may I say this, brother, billions of dollars. So why are we dealing with these stats, and why are we having the problem we're having today? Because we're not organized. The 20 black elected officials today do not meet. Can I be honest with you? The judges don't meet with the school board members, who don't meet with the 2 or 3 members on the housing authority, who don't meet with the members of the council. So what I'm getting at is, you got an $800 million gross community product. And we black folks, even though we don't come out enough, we did our part. And with that, what have we gotten? Not a lot. We haven't used the federal laws to intervene on this. We have 110,000 black folk in the city and 40,000 in the suburbs. We have, as I said, an $800 million economy, 75 not-for-profits. We have 150 block clubs, 250 churches, 12 mosques. You know, we have 500 businesses, and we have 125 lawyers. We are not organized. The culturals do not meet sufficiently to deal with the fact that they're only getting 1% of the cultural money coming out of the city and county. It's a shame. We're not organized. The Black Chamber meets with 20 people, and there's 500 black businesses. We're not organized. As I said, the politicians don't meet, and by the way, the preachers who used to meet, they don't meet. Our African conscious groups, perhaps, but our civil rights, when you go to the Black Leadership Forum, I'm a member and I go, they only have 5 or 6 or 7 people. So what is it about this 150,000 people with $800 million a year and 20 black elected officials, and we can't get together because we're not organized? My brothers and sisters, we must come together. We must love again. We must use our African consciousness and wake up and organize again. And when we are organized, we will do well.
All right. That's right. That's right. And as we move forward, we're going to make these, every response is going to be 1 minute. Because y'all brothers, I'm telling y'all strong, and I know. Hey, y'all can all do, y'all got your shows. But as we end up, and we're going to move in, I want to move to healthcare after this. I'm going to give each one of me with this thing. What do you think? I mean, you guys all know. You've been in the system, you know what's going on, and you're knowledgeable. What are some of the things, in 1 minute, from something you can say to the community? I mean, because literally, you're not talking about the folks that are interested. You're talking to the people that are not. I mean, there's a disconnect. Not only in Buffalo, my brother. It's across the country. I see it wherever I go. There is a disconnect between the political leadership and the community. Because what's happened, if you ask me, is that you've had people that were I didn't grow up. I grew up in a small town in Western North Carolina. I didn't see a black lawyer, a black doctor until I was 19 years old. Went to Durham. But in a lot of communities, they saw black doctors, they saw black lawyers and teachers. I saw teachers and preachers. They all lived in the community. They all lived in the community. They was the stable force in those communities. So where is the disconnect now where you have folks that don't live in those communities and the folks that are there you're trying to help? Because they look at you like, so what? I mean, when I went to the White House and they started doing the FBI clearance on me, everybody was back home. They called my mama. My mama said, "Oh, Leroy G." They said, "The FBI looked up Leroy G. What he done did?" And my mama said, "He ain't did nothing. He's getting like the 007 secret clearance." So I had friends that I grew up with that didn't talk to me more because they thought I was with the DEA. That was a lie. And when they found out I worked for drug policy, I mean, that was the reality. So for them, I was a different brother. I wasn't Leroy to them anymore. I was a brother that was working at the White House and could bust them. So what happens when you go and talk to these young brothers and sisters? They look at you like, you don't understand my life. There is a disconnect. And I can't describe it, but I can see it. And it's not just how we old now. I have to admit, I'm in the gray hairs. It's not just the disconnect generational. There is a disconnect. It's almost like the generation that came along, you guys were young and they fought for civil rights. There's a disconnect between whether they brought the brothers behind them up or whether something were forgotten. I couldn't tell you. But for each of you brothers, we're of a certain age. You know, we may have the hair may be light, but the fire still burning bright, and the heart is slower, but it's just as hot. For each of you brothers, starting up here on the end, I'm gonna start here. 1 minute each. Give me 1 minute. If you can say to a young brother, 1 minute.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, knowledge don't come by age. And you got some folks on the planet as old as can be that ain't got much sense and ain't doing much of anything. And I think the problem, one of the things about those who have been around a long time, well, that don't mean you know everything and do everything. All that means is attendance. So let's get down to what really determines what we do. The love that we have, if you don't travel the trail and you know something about the trail, and you won't say, inform and share that information with somebody that's starting out, well, you're the villain. And we have to wrestle with our young people. I mean, you see it in our babies. How many times you say, come here, and the baby go the way it want to go? And as they get older, we know that the body of science about our human bodies say we're going to do some things just because of what's happening in our body. You need a coach from the outside. Some of us ain't coaching with our kids and with one another. And then we get all stuck up on practicing what I call excusiology. Because then we want to say, oh, you can't say nothing to them kids because you don't know what they do. Well, I know what they do. If you talk to them with love, they're going to listen. If you talk with them with love and sincerity and stern and earnest about what you're saying, they may shake their head. All you got to do is plant the seed. We don't stop planting seeds in our children.
All right.
First off, let me say that I don't blame the young people. Because I don't know not one person who asked to come into this world.
Amen.
The environment that's created for them, you created it, or we created it. Okay, so I'd like to get that point squared away first. Let's talk about something else. I'm about one of the oldest ones up here, if not the oldest. So I can remember a few things. I remember when we had businesses. I can remember when we worked, steel plants and what have you. And I also remember when this government created a program called the poverty programs and how they become institutionalized. And where now we have monies coming in that depends on the amount of poverty that we create. I know that there's a large segment of our community that must live off the blood of the other segment. Do we understand each other?
Amen.
I mean, on the serious side.
Amen.
You see, we don't own no businesses to protect ourselves. So we get into them poverty funds, and our children in the schools must be a certain percentage got to drop out. They must create problems. See, because I sat up here as being a victim. A victim. When I passed the civil service exam for Director of Security for the Board of Education, and was told ahead of time that just because you came out #1 on that list, you are not going to get that job. Because the school system depends on a certain amount of money coming from the government for poverty, and you have too good of an influence on young people that we figure you may change some of them from being the way they are. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's powerful.
Right.
Hey, Doctor.
Man. I'm just glad to be on the stage. So I want to tell you, I was raised in Gary, Indiana, and so there's two things. One, my grandfather lived in Chicago. He ran a gambling joint out of his house. He sold alcohol and gambled in the living room. My mother and sister and I would come to visit. My mother and sister weren't allowed in the front room. And my grandfather made me sit in the front room. I couldn't go to the back room where they were. I had to sit in the front room. And it started when I was about 8. And then when I got 12, I decided I wasn't going to go anymore. So I told my mother, she was going to be your grandfather. And I said, no. I said, I'm sick of being there. The people are drunk. They're this, they're that. And I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to see them anymore. Now, that was a big deal because my mother wasn't someone you told no to and lived to tell about it. So she said, okay. And she left. I went out and played, and I came home, and my grandfather was there in the house. This was the only time he ever stepped foot in our house. He said, let's go for a walk. And I was shocked that he was there. Oh, I know what to say. We're walking down the street, and I grew up in Gary, Indiana, Miller, part of Gary, which is on Redford Lake, Michigan. And we had to have a law passed for us to be able to move there. So he's like, he said, look. I said, how come you don't want to come visit us? He said, it's too quiet here, and he goes through this whole reason, and we talked for a while. He said, I want you to come visit me. Continue. And I was like, no. He says, okay. What do you want to be when you grow up? I said, a doctor. He said, a doctor? I said, a doctor. He said, why? I said, to help people. And he asked me a question that I thought was the most ridiculous question anyone ever asked me. Help what people? I said, all people. He said, really? Really? He said, can I ask you a question? How are you going to help those people if you're not even willing to sit next to them, to talk to them, to understand them?
Ooh, that's good.
He said, we don't need doctors. We need doctors who are going to help us to be better, to be healthier. So that when you are a doctor, and when you see them, you don't understand them, then all you're going to do is judge them and treat them like the other doctors. We don't need that. So I spend the rest of my time over with my grandfather. All right? And he taught me a lot about people. Now here's the deal. Why is that important? Because my grandfather didn't say, I want you to be a doctor. He set the stage for what type of doctor I'm supposed to be. So when we're talking about anybody in any position, if we don't set the stage for that, then they're going to do whatever they want to do. So that's the point. That's us.
There you go. Mr. Redford, the third.
I'm in schools and I see the relationship that our children have with the people around them. And there's a disease going on in our schools. And it ain't just going on in our schools. It's going on in our community. There are actually people walking around here on the planet, and they really believe that they're better than other people. And they believe that in a sincere way. And I know that the underlying issue that we got to address is we got to come to terms to the fact that ain't nobody walking around on this planet no better than nobody else. I don't care who you is. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care where you live. Every one of our children is children of God. And they can learn just like anybody else can learn. And I'm so tired of people giving me an explanation of why a child can't learn. A child in front of me walking and talking, playing, he can do everything. Then he get in front of you and he can't learn. Anything he can't learn, you can't teach.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, the reality is this. When we love our children can do anything. When we love ourselves, we can do anything, including teach. When you draw the conclusion that you can't do something, you're lying to yourself. And when you start lying to yourself, you start lying to our kids. And when we stop lying to our children, all our problems will be over. All we got to do is look at them and tell them the truth. You're a child of God. Anything that you can conceive and we can work together on, you can achieve it. And that's a real statement. I'm not saying it as no, just saying it a positive affirmation. That is an absolutely true statement. We don't even have the courage to have a vision for what we want our community to look like 20 years from now, 5 years from now. 5 years from now is coming, everybody. It's coming for sure. Some people got a plan on exactly what they want it to look like, and they're working on it right now. You ask some people, what's your community going to look like 5 years from now? Oh, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be this. Well, what are you saying when you say it's going to be worse? You saying what you're going to be doing for the next 5 years is watching your community deteriorate. When you say 5 years from now, my community is going to be a lot better than it is today, and this is going to be going on, you telling me your work. You tell me what you're going to be doing. And so we have to encourage our children to not go ask nobody what their community going to look like from 5 years from now, for them to start having a vision. And then our job as the adults is to work with them to help it, bring it into existence. And we live in the community, and we live in the future that we choose to live in because we create it and do the work.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That's it.
Mr. Bishop?
The question to young people, not only what do we say to young people, but also if you ask the young person today to vote, and some of us are doing that. I've been to 6,000 houses in the last couple months, not literally, physically at the doors. You ask young people to vote, like we ask them to get involved in the other questions, and they say why? Why should they? And so I'd like to share a couple things with you. Number one, if a young man or a young woman wants to go into business, and thank God for these wonderful businesses, WAPO, thank you for assembling this great cast of businesses. If you ask, where do you go to in the black community, and I don't mean to the ECIDA or the SBA or SBDC, where do you go, what black institution is set up to help you start a business? Is there one? You mean with all this talent and intellectual property, we can't find somebody that will says, I'm open for business to help businesses as a not-for-profit to start a business. For young people who want to go into politics, And I mean run for office. You can be an apprentice at Grassroots or Unity Coalition or Be the Change or Republican Colors, but they're not really set up. They're set up as a club to feed themselves. You know, that's why we have an older and aging elected group of officials. Young people don't have a place to go and say, I want to be a politician, I just graduated from school. Where do they go? Because we're not organized. And also the church. We talk about the church and the church. Well, where's the school of theology? I know they tried with the Church of God in Christ, the C.H. Mason theology. So where do you go if you want to become a minister today as a young man or young woman? There's a black institution, and I don't mean Colgate or some of these other places, Canisius. Where do you go today? We are better than this. Right. Which is why I wanted to say this.
All right, finish up.
Ted Kirkland's book, I just bought it, it's $33. Get Ted's book. It's this thick. Read it. $33. Go to the Monday night, go to the District Parents Coordinating Council and get with Sam. As a grandparent or as a parent, go to my brother who's talking about education. He's got a movement going, and Jim down there. Get with the Alliance for Quality Education, AQE. He's head of it. Or Citizen Action and some of these, but let's show them. But let's take the young people where they can get some help. Let's stop clowning and pretending and strutting around showing ourselves when we have nothing to show right now. Let's build some things, and again, let's get organized.
Well, look, I'm going to take the moderator. We're not going to go into healthcare. We'll come to that later. I want to get into national politics. And the reason why is because you guys have made me even... I've been going around the country seeing folks and talking to folks and just getting a general sense. I've had folks in the administration on my show, and I've been hearing it on the social media, and I think it's interesting because being on like I tell people, it's easy when you're 35,000 feet up. But when you walk in the streets and you got to deal, you weaving and wobbling, trying to see what's up, you in the barbershops, and they look at you like, what you gonna do, brother? You talking all this smack. And I think there is this anger and frustration because as we talk about with young brothers, they don't really, I tell folks, politics to me, I learned it, and I'll give you guys a story. You talking about you with your grandpa. My granddad never had to steal. I'm from the hills. They made that white light, that clip. They had the big killer out in the woods. They had a top over it so the raccoons and animals couldn't get into it. So I'm going to let you know where I'm from. They had the little cave there. They had the sweet potatoes in the mason jars. And they would look at me. I was like, Daddy, what's that? He said, ain't none of your business. You get out of here. Bring their hands up. I thought it was for the food, never realizing they had a little side here going on. But nonetheless, but God rest his soul, that we be like, Leroy Jr., I'm going to get you, boy. The thing about all this is that what I'm seeing from black folks, there was this sense that, you know, with the election of President Obama, everything, oh, happy day. Don't get me wrong. And I'm glad, because I don't think folks really truly understand what it meant for the brother to get in there. It was huge. It was historic. But what I also didn't think folks really understood, it was like, for a lot of people, it was like the first time they had been to the party. Because for the first time they were engaged. Because there was a disconnect in the sense that how really hard it is to get something done. Because the president is the president, but they forgot he got a Congress, there's a branches of government. Then it became very interesting for you got Supreme Court. That's why they call it branches of government. That's why they teach you to make you understand. They give it to you. But what they always say, you can put you give people something to read, they don't want to read it. It was always been given, but there's certain people that understood that. And I'm asking you guys, and I'm trying to keep it short. We're trying to keep it about 1 or 2 minutes. Do you feel a sense that, I mean, you guys are in a blue state, you don't see a lot of ads. Do you feel a lack of excitement for this election at this point? I mean, because there's sort of this sense I feel from a lot of folks. They don't see it. I think at times I'm talking to folks I've had on the show, I don't think they've expressed enough or really got the story out there about some of the things they have done, because I think they've done a lot of good stuff. But on the other end, the politics of reality, he can only do what he can do. But you have Congress people, you have state legislators that you can get to and get on their cases. But on a national level, do you sort of sense that frustration? Because it's sort of like, you veterans of politics, you understand. Do you sense that frustration? We'll start with you. Come over there, give him the microphone, and we'll come down. Do you sort of sense that?
Yeah, I do sense the frustration, and I think, again, this is where those who know have to do the teaching and speaking and preaching. And here's an example. I used to like the Kung Fu series. And the master used to always say, "Grasshopper, what do you see?" Grasshopper said, "I see so-and-so and so-and-so." And master said, "Good." And he'd say, "But do you not also see?" We got to teach our people to also see what's in the frame. Yeah, we got a man of color in the White House, but James Brown said that every brother ain't a brother. They ain't saying he ain't. But the evidence that qualifies that when you look at the masses of our people is yet to be seen. So we feeling good. We got someone who looked like us in the White House, and that's not to put all the weight on him. Just as you just got through saying. You got to look at the layers around him. We got Congress people, some of color and some who not. You have to look at everybody and see what they're doing that relate to what's important to you. So if you're just looking at one person, yeah, you're going to lose face because they can't lift the world. It ain't their job. And we need to really look deep at all our representatives, because they all get up saying, "Hey, I'm representing everybody." Now, that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm just saying, we got to start looking deep, not the book by its cover, get into the book, both local, national, and international.
Remember, no black people in the Senate.
That's right.
That's huge.
Yeah, I also sense that element of frustration out there, and I agree with Brother Jones there when he talked about the local politicians. Last night I had a discussion with Betty Grant, and we were talking about how black voters are not educated. See, what Brother Jones has said a minute ago is something we should have been educated to understand from the beginning. By being thrown on you after the fact is when the frustration takes place. If we had known that, hey, look, we know the brother can only do so much when he get in there, if that had been made clear to us, but we were pumped up. We were made to believe, some of us, that all our troubles are going to be over. It's like the Sunday morning preacher. You die and go to heaven, you ain't got nothing else to worry about. But that wasn't true. But many of you did not know that. So that's where the frustration comes in. And I agree. Here is your training ground. And what Betty and I talked about last night, we were talking about some issues that should have been cleared up 40 years ago in Buffalo, that we're still dealing with right here in the city of Buffalo. Voter fraud. What is voter fraud? When candidates lose. But what's their responsibility when they get in office? What are you voting for? Why are you still voting on personalities? Because that person smiles better than the other one, or because he has a certain position in society and you want to put him in a position? This is totally crazy. And so all of us suffer because of the manner in which we vote. Let's vote. Let's listen to issues. Our politicians, black, they don't come in the neighborhood with no issues. And you know it. They come in with their name, a smile, or what have you, and you give them a vote. So what is it you should expect? A name and a smile.
See, like I said, all politics is local, even on the national level. It all comes together. All right, Doc.
So, and by the way, if you don't know it, we've been talking about healthcare already.
Well, I know. And see, that's part of the reason, because it's all tied together. And that's what I'm saying. At the end, I was going to wrap it up. And by you being on the panel, that shows that's absolutely right.
So let me just say this. So we started off talking about education and politics. I told the story about my grandfather, for a reason to tie it all together. Because as we think about what is education, I got 3 graduate degrees. It's not about my degrees. When I went to medical school, I didn't learn medicine. I learned how to think about medicine, how to learn about being a doctor, right? See, what does that mean? So when someone's educated, it's about their ability to think, to take ideas, to take concepts, to listen to what people are saying to them, and analyze it, and think about it. What does that mean for me? What does it mean for my family? What does it mean for my community? And when you lack that, you don't have the ability to discern what's going on around you. So you can't maneuver and strategize and think about it and tie stuff together. That's why that's why we have the reading levels and things that we have. My grandmother didn't go to college, but she was educated. My grandfather got kicked out of college, but he was educated enough that when he looked at his grandson, he said, I need you to do this. I don't need you to hustle like me. I'm going to take hustle money and make you this, right? And my aunt could sit me down and say, let me teach you how to deal with politicians. I do healthcare policy. I sat on both sides of the aisle in Congress. Been in the room with 3 presidents. Right? So talking about healthcare stuff. That's what education is knowing how to think and understand. And when you have a poor education, you have poor ability to do that. So when we hear the president met with that group, or the presidential candidate met with that group, and that's what he talked about, black folks don't say, you don't come to us to talk about that stuff. You don't come to us to deal with our issues in a way that we could come up with a solution to it. You don't do that, and we're cool with it. Because we're not educated that way. Where my money going? We're not educated that way. Why am I listening to you? We're not educated that way. Doctor, why you treat me this way? Disparities in health and healthcare. I'm paying you to misabuse me. Not acceptable. But if you don't not educated that way, you don't know what to do.
All right. All right. Come on. Mr. Rapp.
Last year in July, I went to the White House to the Community Leaders Education Briefing. And what I realized when I was sitting in there is that we talked about the idea of frustration. I realized that this is the best time. I mean, there's no better time in history than right now.
That's right.
I'm sitting there and I'm listening to the strategy and how they're talking about what their intentions are, and I'm understanding that sometimes what happens is we got to take 10 steps. We take 3 steps. And then we get frustrated because we see we got 7 more to go, and all we talk about is the 7 we ain't taking. We ain't there, we ain't there. This is wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. But we don't say, but we got step 1 done, step 2 done, step 3 done. We on step 4. Let's come together and take step 4. So there's some things that we have achieved. Having President Obama in the White House is important. It's important for our children. And that sense of frustration or that sense of apathy, I don't see it that way. I'm out there and I'm talking to these young folk. And there's a parent conference going on tomorrow at Burgard High School, right? 9 o'clock, right? But all last week and all early this week, everybody running around upset because ain't nobody registered, ain't nobody registered, ain't nobody registered. I mean, they all frustrated, right? In the last 2 days, 300 people registered. Everybody breathing. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying that to say, don't call it too soon. I'm saying that the young people ain't bowed out of this thing. I mean, we got a sense of frustration depending on how you look at it. But we got to give our young people a sense of optimism, a sense of something to hope for. And then them elders, I'm all for that. Them elders that we need to put some of these people in check, they ain't doing what they doing, put them in check. But make sure while you put them in check that you tell the young people, but you got to do better. And whether you put them in check or not, you would have still had to do better. So you pay attention and learn. So I think it's a wonderful time to be alive. I think our young people are the best we got. And I think the future ain't going to do nothing but get better.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great.
One of the things that we look at the national politics, and someone said about an agenda. Now, we know the National Urban League produces a State of the Black America. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I got to go, and I know Mr. Moriarty, it was a good event. So my daughter.
So the State of the Black, the published document, talks about the ills and the condition and the things that you illuminated on the national level, but what is the agenda going forward? Because it's the Urban League that always was the creator of businesses. Like Ron Brown headed up the Urban League in San Diego, the former Commerce Secretary, former chair of the Democratic Party who helped Bill Clinton get elected.
Yes, he did.
The Urban League probably could say we need to create 100,000 new businesses in Black America. So the agenda can't just be a reconnoitering for the bones of what's wrong. It must point to the future of what we must do. There are 45 million of us, and we have 60 of us in Congress. Do they have, and I've been to the Congressional Black Caucus in D.C., do they have an agenda? They have a big party. T.D. Jakes come in and they have a big service. They get to church in.
Now, hold up, brother. I've been to some of them parties. They was all right. I've been, they ain't no leave me lying. I ain't gonna go with you on that. I had some good times at parties. But they also does, look, some of those, now I do know, sometimes some of them panels are shaky. But they have done something good. And I work for a milk, and I have to say that. I'm not to go there. I apologize.
Okay.
All right, now. Let's be real. Keep it real.
Because the truth is,
I'm gonna be real with you.
Into this though. The truth is, I've been in the workshops on economic development and minority business, and the brother from South Carolina was chairing it.
Mr. Gladburn, good man.
Yeah. And the thing about this is, but they didn't do nothing but just jab and talk, and no agenda came out of the congressional, so it's not going to come out of the Congressional Black Caucus or the Urban League. Where the heck is the agenda going to come from? And what I want to do is bring it to here that we must have an agenda. We must demand that these 60 black elected officials, like the 20 here, get together and give us an agenda, or we're going to have to write the agenda and say, sign it. So with that, I want to just say that we must pull together. We have to pull together, but we can do it. And if we stop partying, and I'm going to say this to our Masonic organizations, there are 18 fraternal Masonic Prince Hall organizations, Doug Ruffin. We have, that's great, they're walking in squares. I love my brothers, and I'm in there. But let's stop walking in daggone squares and open up that damn lodge and let the young man come in there and learn how to be a young man. If anybody can be a mentor, it's these Masons. Yeah. Anybody can be a mentor, it's the Eastern Star. We all have to be charged. Charge me, charge Ted, charge these men, but we all have to be accountable. And a community that has no goals will never succeed. And if you don't have a plan, you can't hold 60 black elected officials, 20 black elected officials, or other leaders accountable.
We're going to wrap up because we'll get some questions for you folks. Yeah. Do you have something you want to add to this?
Yeah, I want to say, wait, Jim, I forgot something.
Okay.
I want to say this.
Hold on,
Betty Jean Grant, please write in. Okay. Write her name in on the ballot, and then circle the circle. Because she's running with a write-in. She was outspent 20-1. Please vote, and please vote for the president, but don't forget to write Betty Jean Grant in. We may have a surprise. Thank you.
All right.
Nancy, go ahead and finish up. We will try to get the questions.
I just wanted to say, look, I grew up in Buffalo like many of us in here. And it was at a time when the needs that needed to be addressed, it wasn't because people were getting funding. It was just the value line in the community to care for each other. Whether it was a funeral, whether it was any kind of need, people cared. We're not doing that now, but you know what? Those of us that know something about it, all we have to do is start it up again. You don't need an army. We just need us to start stepping out of our zones where we done got a little bit too comfortable. What Carter G. Woodson say, there's some stuff we need to unlearn. And then we need to reload on some stuff that brought us across that we ain't using no more. And I mean, it's simple. And don't worry about what they're doing in any other state and any other city. This is about Buffalo. And this is about our immediate community. And let me give you a charge for anybody that's in a house of faith. If a kid can't read in public school, guess what? They can't read in that church, that temple, that synagogue, or anything. Amen. Now, if you want to know what the test is, about our love for our kids, do a census. How many kids you got in your church? I don't care if it's about 5. Do the census. Find out whether they're passing their required grades. And if they're not, then look around and see where the help is inside the house. And if you're a preacher, when those kids get their cards, bring them up. And don't beat them down because they're failing. But look out in that congregation and you'll say, hey, Brother Bones, you an accountant. I want you to work with Larry here. He has a problem in his math. Sister so-and-so, you a high-tech secretary, and so I want you to work with Betty over here. She need to learn how to do this kind of stuff. I'm just saying we got it. We just not sharing it.
There you go. We're going to finish. We'll get some questions, but I'm going to add this. I got to get back to CBC. I work for CBC, but the one thing about it, I'm agreeing with you because there are times that those, as I say, those jokers over there don't do anything. But you know, I would say that too for some of them. But you have to remember too, they're dealing with the same issue. They're in a situation where they're 40 within, and they can only do but so much. But I will say this: it's important for those voices to be there because I ended up working for a guy that was the first black representative since 1901. So that's why it was important for them to be there, because without their voices, it wouldn't be there. So we need folks to ask the question when they get there. Don't forget where you at, and don't forget you got to step up.
Well, I gotta say this because listen. It was Dick Gregory.
And I'm going to let the doctor say something.
Okay, Dick Gregory speaking at Kent State.
Yes.
And he said about the people of Germany, talking about the good features of the Nazis and let the crappy stuff get through. We don't need to make a mistake. All our representatives got some good features. But we better point out those negative features and deal with them and deal with them quick. That's all I'm thinking.
All right, let the doctor say something. Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to say something too.
Let me just put a positive note.
Keep it short because we want to let people ask questions.
Put a positive note on this. I'm a believer in God. How many out there believe in God?
Man.
God did not create us to have all these problems. Do you believe that?
Yes, sir.
And we have, like a friend of mine said, he went throughout the black community, he took pictures of 162 black churches. Now, if we have 162 black churches in Buffalo, it should show. Am I right or wrong? That means in our conduct, in our environment, and etc. We have all the tools that we need to correct all the problems that affect us. If our kids are not getting educated, open those doors up on those churches every night of the week and use those teachers that are retired and otherwise and teach those children. That's our responsibility. That's your missionary responsibility. If in fact we need businesses, churches can help finance businesses. Am I right or wrong? That means we all become a part of it. It's not, the church is not supposed to be places to go to be entertained and come out and feel happy because you were entertained. It is not a place to go and get yourself a shot. Make you feel good till the next time I have to go back. Peace.
All right, Doc, go ahead and we're going to get the question.
Man, I forgot what I was going to say.
I know, that
No, I mean, just, you're right. We're right. From religion to ministers to our, this is what I wanted to say. Our elected officials are, so when you, okay, quickly, you're going to talk about a mandate. So someone gets a blowout and they win, and the pundits say, they have a mandate to do this. And they get to do that, right? Because they get to say, they get to sit down across from them and say, you know what? This piece of legislation you might not actually like. I'm going to bring it to you. You can turn it down. 50 million people said they like it. What you going to do? And they go, we're going to sign off on it. Because what they're really saying is that your job is going to be on the line if you don't go along with this. See, what we do, people get in the room, they don't have a force behind them. It's like for that scene out, if you've read the autobiography of Malcolm X and you saw it in Spike Lee's movie, where Spike Lee went in there and said, I want to see Brother Jones. And they say, what you doing there? He say, look outside. Right? Look outside. They go, oh, better let them see him. It's that. We got to back them up. We got to say, this is what we demand. And they either say, hey, I might not like this legislation either, but if I don't step up, I'm going to lose my job. And if you go against it, you might lose yours.
All right, brother, we got to roll on here. I know, like I said, it's been so good, and I know folks got questions. We're going to be able to ask a couple of questions because, brothers got to go. We got to be longer. Sheila, I'll come back.
Yes.
And we'll do another one. We have a longer time. I will come back. Yes. And we'll do something. You brothers, in fact, we'll do something after the election, probably maybe in January. Well, if it's snowing, no. Yeah. Man, I almost got myself a Mr. Rock.
It didn't snow last year. It didn't snow last year.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what you're saying right now.
We got indoor facilities.
Well, look, let's do a couple of questions. The brothers got to go now. Ladies first, and then one gentleman. Any questions? Anybody have any questions? No questions? You got one question, bro? Do you have a question, ma'am? Okay, no question? Okay, this brother got a question, we'll wrap it up. Tell them, they know you, though. So
okay, yeah. My name is Brother Rodolphus Bones, and I've had a relationship with probably everybody on that panel. With healthcare, cancer research, Man Up, Mentor, the Quality Alliance of Education, Board of Education. And I want to speak to Charley because he's an organizer like I am. And here's another one of my mentors here. But one of the things that I want to say before I ask this question, though, is that I didn't have what I needed at home. And I grew up at a time when I could go outside my home and get the kind of things that I needed, and I thank God for that. And so when they say it takes a village to raise a child, I was one of those children that a village raised, and I thank God for growing at a time. And I was really, I was taken aback, man. It brought tears to my eyes watching some of the old footage when I was a kid of Bill Gator. And the rallies, and we have to get back to that, because if you don't demand anything. But Charlie, I was thinking about all the rallying we did over the years, and I too went to Washington, and we did some stuff on your show with Randy. And when I got to Washington, we talked to a few folks, and we had to rally out in front of the White House, put 600 names on the ground in front of the White House. Then I realized that the problem was right there, and that no one has put enough pressure on them with all these wars, all our children's going to wars. No one has put enough pressure on them to do something about urban violence across the country.
Well, Bones, let me do this then, because I know where you're going with that. Let me just say this. Give you two things that we could do that involve Washington here. One is we need a black bank. And with St. John's Baptist Church, they have the DDA deposits and DDA deposits to qualify for a black bank. They said they were going to do it. You and others, using the contacts we have in the legislation in Washington, they have made it possible for us to create, easier to create a black bank. Can we, in 2013, open one chartered black bank? We've never done it in the history of Buffalo, which is stupid. Can you go to the church and talk to Michael and them and ask them to open the bank, and let's commit the funds? The second thing is Terry McKelvey, 847-2606. Tell Terry to get 5 or 6 of them black lawyers together and open a black law firm. We've never had a black law firm. Are we sick? Is it the water? Is it we've never had a black law firm or a black bank? Can we just in next year do two things? Let's get a law firm on the books, and let's get a bank. Those two things, Bones, if you go and lobby those people, maybe they'll say yes, and we can support that. But without that, we have nothing to even put our hands on. We're better than this. Let's get better. Let's do this. And yes, I commit to you in next year, we'll do more than ever in terms of protesting and pushing the envelope and fighting. But we got to have at least get 1 or 2 things done. Is that all right, Bones?
Thank you, brother. Brother, first of all, I want to thank all of you for being here, because it's important, and it's important for you to be here. And these brothers right here, y'all taught me so much just in this short time. I'm going to be back. I'm on the air here. You hear me every Monday at 7 o'clock on the Global Jones Show.
12:30 to 1.
12:30 to 1. And then you hear me in the mornings,
7:20.
7:20 on Mondays and Thursdays with the report. So now you see me. So you know when you say, Leroy Jones, Leroy Jones, who's it? It's Leroy. Little Leroy. Remember that. That's why I said old Leroy. It's little Leroy. Little Leroy. Absolutely. My kids love that. First of all, I want to thank Sheila for inviting me. Sheila, and we got to give Sheila some love. One of the things that, and I'm trying to, this is my part, I get to pontificate.
There you go.
The love I've gotten here in Buffalo. I think a lot of times when people say you're DC and all this, there's a certain expectation I'm going to walk in. Like I said, I'm just me. My tagline for my commentary is commentary for the common folk. And people hear me say, there's some people that said that when you said it's like 5. I said because it's for all those people that when I was working these jobs, just said, Leroy, you're not supposed to talk about those issues. Leroy, you're supposed to act a certain way. And I kept telling them, you can do, well, I can't say what I'm going to say, but you know what I'm going to say. So when I say commentary for the common folk, you know what I'm saying. It's for those people that raised me, my mama, Leroy and Mayo, Square and Zip. That's who raised me. And that's who gave me, if you want to know the story, go to ebony.com. There's a story, they did an article. My mother would have loved it because it was of all the bodies she loved Ebony. Look at Political Jones and you find it. You guys make sure you listen to WUFO Mix 1080.
Yes, indeed.
Make sure you got the Facebook, UFO Mick Sheridan, and UFO 1080 AM on Twitter. Again, thank you for being here. I will be back. They're trying to talk me to come back when it snows, but you know I love Buffalo. I will be back. Thank you for having me here, and you guys have a great weekend. Thank you.
Amen.
All right.